Module 6. Mandatory Regulations, Codes, Guidelines and Standards. In this module you will learn about 1. The Maritime Regulatory System. 2. The identification and application of rules and regulations. Where do maritime regulations originate from? The major UN bodies which formulate maritime regulations are IMO and ILO. The shipping industry is regulated by various UN agencies, primarily the International Maritime Organization, IMO, which develops and maintains the framework of global maritime safety regulations. Maritime regulations also originate from national legislations and EU legislations. The flag state is responsible for implementing the government's maritime safety policy. This guide covers how the industry is regulated, the different sources of maritime regulations and how you can keep up to date when regulations change or new regulations are introduced. Regulations which govern the maritime industry come from national legislations, EU legislations, agreements, resolutions, and conventions made by various UN agencies, including the IMO and ILO. National legislation. National legislation is mainly made up of Acts of Parliament and statutory instruments. Acts of Parliament are the highest level of law. Acts often grant power to government ministers to create more detailed regulations called statutory instruments, SIs. Many maritime SIs have supporting documentation in the form of marine notices and codes of practice. EU legislation. If your flag is a member state of the EU, then it is subject to EU legislation. EU legislation comes in the form of regulations, directives and decisions. Regulations are enforceable as law as soon as they are passed in the EU and published in the European Journal. By comparison, directives and decisions must be transposed into national law before they come into force. The Eurolex website is the official source of all EU treaties, proposed, upcoming and enforced legislation and case law. The IMO. The IMO is the UN agency that specializes in regulating the international shipping industry. It aims to provide a regulatory framework covering safety, environmental concerns, legal matters, technical cooperation, maritime security, and the efficiency of shipping. How it works. The IMO carries out its work in a series of meetings attended by member states. These meetings produce large amounts of documentation, such as circulars and resolutions, which IMO member states are encouraged to accept and implement. Find out about the work and responsibilities of the IMO on their website. You can also find IMO circulars and resolutions there. The ILO. The ILO is a UN organization that promotes dialogue between employers and workforces worldwide. Campaigns for fair and decent working conditions for employees. Encourages employment opportunities. Maritime Labour Convention. The ILO's MLC 2006 provides comprehensive rights and protection at work for seafarers all over the world. The MLC consolidated the existing 65 international labor standards. Find out about the MLC on the ILO website. New, upcoming and changing maritime regulations. The majority of maritime SIs are supported by marine notices, referred to as M notices, and codes of practice. These documents expand on the technical detail of the shipping and fishing legislation they support. They may be mandatory or non-mandatory, depending on whether they are given force of law by an SI. M notices inform the shipping and fishing industries of important safety, pollution prevention, and other maritime information. M notices are issued by the flag state. There are also codes of practice that provide practical guidance on how to comply with the legislation. There are 3 types of M notice. Merchant Shipping Notices, MSNs, provide mandatory guidance on legislation, and must be complied with when enforced by an SI. Marine Guidance Notes, MGNs, provide guidance on the interpretation of the law, recommendations on best practice and general safety advice. Marine Information Notes, MINs, are intended for a specific audience, e.g. equipment manufacturers, or give time-limited information, such as timetables for examinations, and expire after a certain date, usually no more than 12 months after publication. M notices also have suffixes to indicate whether the documents relate to merchant ships, M. Fishing vessels, F. Merchant ships and fishing vessels, M and F. Consultations. The flag state also carries out public consultations on maritime issues including new legislation, proposed changes to existing legislation and guidance. Thanks for watching this module. See you another time.